Today the update is talking to Michael Møller, the Director General of the United Nations Office of Geneva, who has worked for the United Nations for over 35 years. Mr. Møller, thank you for being here today.
My pleasure.
In the past month, President Trump has made it clear that he has little respect for the UN, and he signalled that he may pull out of the Iran deal. And in addition to this, the African Union has voted to leave the International Criminal Court. Do you think that the widespread international cooperation of the past few decades is coming to an end?
No, I don't think it's coming to an end. I think it's changing, clearly. We can see that. It's natural that it does so, because the historical context in which we live is changing, the geopolitical realities are changing, the financial realities are changing, the technical realities, everything's changing. We are in a really quite interesting time in history. Big changes are happening, also in terms of the problems that are facing the world. So, it's quite natural that these things change. I think that one of the things that we need to help change back is the rekindling, or reinventing, if you want, of international solidarity. All of the problems that are facing us, they're not going to be solved unless we do it together.
Do you think there's a division between the UN's aims and those of the Security Council and the vested interests, especially if you look at places like Syria?
I'm not sure that's the best way to frame the question, because our aims are globally the same. We will all want peace. We all want the best for our populations. It's just that our agendas are different, and the way that we perceive of how to get to these goals are different. And right now, the Council and its members are having a bit of a difficult time trying to reconcile these different agendas. But if you ask every single one of them individually about what the goal is, you probably get pretty much the same language and the same objectives. We just have to figure out how to reconcile these different paths and the different perceptions of how we get there in a much better way than we have until now. This is the job of the UN. This is the job of my colleague Stefan de Mistura, who is heading the negotiations and the mediation on trying to find a political and diplomatic solution to that really festering problem.
Another criticism of the UN, which has come out recently with the appointment of Nikki Haley, the new ambassador to the UN, was her criticism, and as well as some other organisations, that the UN is biased against Israel. And you had, I think there were 20 resolutions passed against Israel in the past General Assembly compared to 6 in the rest of the world. Do you think this criticism is fair?
Up to a point, yes, but only up to a point. There's a number of things that necessitates the criticism of Israel and what it's doing and how it's doing it. I think that historically, for the past 70 years, Israel has been the focus of quite a lot of attention. And one can analyze why, but the fact remains that it is so. And a lot of the resolutions that have been passed by the Security Council and the General Assembly remain unimplemented, also not very good, as a matter of principle, because it diminishes the trust and the impact of these institutions. I find that the current push from the American side a little bit disingenuous, because the fact is that the latest resolutions on settlements were passed because for the first time in history the United States administration withheld its either its veto or its vote, its normal vote. It wasn't actually it wasn't the UN as a whole. It was the Security Council and its 15 member states, and in particular in this particular case, the United States administration that took the decision to move ahead. So criticizing us for something that they themselves have been doing is a little much.
There's also some controversy surrounding the fact that there are sort of quite evident human rights abusers, such as Saudi Arabia, on the Human Rights Council in Geneva. Do you think that it sends sort of the wrong message if people like that are on the council, which is meant to...
No, I think that's a completely wrong way of looking at it. You have to remember that the UN was created as the table around which everybody is sitting that can sit down and work. We live in a very fragmented, very conflictual, very problematic world, and we have to have one place on this planet where all of us can sit down and discuss. That means that everybody, small and big, foe and friend, rich and poor, black and white, whatever color, whatever difference, whatever religion, whatever situation, socioeconomic or peace situation they're in, can sit around this table and discuss. And this is what we're about. Let me quote a former Secretary General who once said that if I have to make peace, I'll speak even to the devil. And that's pretty much sums it up. We as an organization were made for that. and trying to impose the moral precepts of one part of the world over another doesn't work, and it's not what we're about. You can go and do that somewhere else.
Moving on, conflicts such as the Yemeni civil war receive quite a little amount of Western media attention. How much of a role do you think the media play and should play in pushing towards international cooperation?
A much bigger one that it's doing now. I'm a very big proponent of something we call constructive news. This is a different way of bringing the news to the fore and to the readers and the viewers and the listeners, where you don't just report on the negative side of effects, but when you report on a story, whether it's a catastrophe of one form or the other, or whether it's a condition in a particular place, you also go as a journalist, ideally, and look for somewhere on the planet where somebody has found a solution to that problem, and you report on it together so that you have a balanced presentation. And that trend is picking up speed, a lot of speed right now. I think that in our world today, where we have absolutely extraordinary ways of communicating, we have over 7 billion cell phones on this planet, everybody has access to information, everybody has access to expressing his or her views. It's incredibly important that these 7 billion people be better informed, better educated about what happens on a shrinking globe, in which the interconnectedness of the big problems that are facing us are such that we all have a responsibility to try and solve them. So there the media, the schools and the media, hand in hand, have a much, much bigger role today in many ways than it's had before. And the educational aspect of the media has by and large been left behind over the years by, I'm generalizing now, but not too much, by mainstream media for the sake of profits.
Finally, why do you think young people should get involved with stuff like the UN? I mean, our school is involved with the Student League of Nations and stuff like that. Do you think that's important?
It's hugely important. You guys are going to be responsible for this planet and not that many years ahead of us. You will be inheriting quite a mess. You better know how to deal with it. So get on with it. Inform yourselves, become activists, be part of the search for solutions. You have much greater ability to manage the kinds of changes I spoke about earlier today, particularly in the technological field, that is going to have a major, major impact on our lives, the way we live, the way we work, and the way we interact. And the fact that you have the ability to manage those and understand them and use them in a much better way than somebody like me, for example, is incredibly important. So you have to be part of the solution, and you have to be part, collectively, youth have to be part of the conversation. And we are adapting to that. You know, the past sector, Jean appointed a youth representative that spent a lot of time talking to youth organizations and people around the world. When we established the SDGs, the organization spoke to about 10 million young people online over a couple of years, just to make sure that we heard the young voice in that, and we are going to continue doing that. But it's a two-way street, it's a conversation, it's not an imposition.
Mr. Møller, thank you for your time.
My pleasure.